Hi, and welcome to Gaming with EaselJS, an advanced Canvas course on Tuts+. In this lesson, we're going to be setting up our development environment and having a look at the tools we'll be using to automate our workflow so that we can concentrate on coding. Now, in the Canvas Essentials course, I did everything I could to avoid having to set up any environment at all. You can work with native Canvas just by opening up and editing a HTML file. I'll try not to be opinionated in this workflow setup, but just try to expose some tools that will help you automate and speed up your workflow. So if you haven't got it already, I want you to go to nodejs.org and install Node for your computer. Don't worry, we're not going to be doing any back-end coding here. It's just that our automation tools are written in Node. Luckily, it's very easy. You can download a packaged up file from nodejs.org and it will install for you Node and Node Package Manager, or NPM. As far as packages go, we'll be using the Grunt JavaScript Task Runner. We'll be using Bower. This is what we'll be using to manage our dependency on EaselJS. And to write and organize our code in modules, we'll be using Browserify. Browserify is a little bit like Require.js, but it allows you to write your modules in the more standard Node.js style. Basically, it means you can require in all of your other module files using a standard require function and export your module's functionality using module exports. Notice that there's no wrapper function around this code. All of that is supplied automatically by Browserify. So, create a new folder and open it up in the terminal. Now, I know some people have misgivings about working in the terminal, but I really think it's worth investing the time in order to greatly increase your workflow and productivity. So, assuming you have NPM already installed, I'll ask you to npm install with the G flag. That means it'll be installed globally. Grunt-CLI, that's the command line interface. You'll need to install this globally. Next, we'll need to install Bower globally and Browserify also globally. So let's open up our working directory directly in Sublime or whatever text editor you prefer to use. We'll create a new file called package.json and save it there. Now, this is just a plain old JSON file that tells NPM about our project and the other projects it depends on. So we'll give it a name, Tuts+ Advanced Canvas, a version, a description, an entry point file, which is like the main file that should be opened. Since we're not exporting our project as an NPM module, this won't really be necessary. You can put yourself as the author, give it a license, and here we can include our development dependencies. We can also have normal dependencies. These will be packages and libraries that will actually be used during production, whereas the dev dependencies are all the various tools you use during development. So let's put in Grunt Browserify, which is a Grunt task that we can run, which will automatically browserify all of our modules together. Grunt contrib watch, which is a task that can watch changes in our files and run certain tasks when we change them. Watch can also be used to reload your browser automatically to even further speed up your workflow. Grunt contrib copy, which is used for copying files and folders around. And Grunt contrib connect, which allows us to set up a temporary server to view our project on. Next, we'll create a Bower file. We'll save that as bower.json. Most of this is similar to what you saw before. We just have our dependencies here with EaselJS and a star, meaning the latest build. So now if you go back, you'll see we have our Bower.json file and our package.json file. So the advantage of having these JSON files is that we can now just call npm install, and Node Package Manager will go through that JSON file, retrieve everything that we need, all of our dependencies, and put them all into a folder called Node Modules. It means that you don't have to carry around all the dependencies with your source code. You can just commit into your repositories your actual application code. Let's run Bower install, and it will retrieve EaselJS and put it into the Bower components folder. We obviously wouldn't want to commit these folders to a repository, so if you're using Git, make sure you add them to your git ignore file. So now let's set up where our application code is going to go, and then we'll write our automated tasks. We'll make a folder called app, and in here we're going to create one HTML file and one main script file in a lib folder. So let's create a new file in the app folder, and we'll create a basic HTML file. As you can see, we have our title, and we've got a canvas with an ID of main. We'll save that as index.html, and then inside lib, we'll create a main.js file. And we'll just console log app started. So let's create a new file in the top level and we'll call it gruntfile.js. I won't go into a lot of detail about Grunt and the various things you can do with it, But if you'd like to find out more, there's a great course on Tuts Plus called Getting Good with Grunt by Andrew Burgess. For it to work correctly, we have to export a function on module exports of the grunt file. Toward the end of our file, we'll need to load in all of the tasks that we installed using npm. We've got contrib copy, watch, connect, and Browserify. We can register a couple of tasks. One, when we want to build our project, which we'll call Browserify and copy, and the other, which is the default, we'll build the project, connect it so that we can view it on a local host port, and then it will watch the directories for changes, and we'll hook up watch so that it calls build so that it'll re-Browserify and copy everything again. So we need to call grunt.initconfig, and we can pass in the package JSON for it to read as its package, and then from here on we can define all of our tasks. Like I said, I won't go into detail in each of the tasks, but just take you through each of them and what they're doing. First, we'll have a Browserify task. That will basically build our JavaScript together. We'll be exporting everything into a build folder which doesn't exist yet as app.bundle.js inside a script subfolder. For Browserify, we just need to put in all of our top level files. So we're going to have one main.js file, and that will be calling and requiring the rest of our files. So we only need to pass that in. Next, we want to make a copy task. Copy will have two subtasks, scripts and HTML. Scripts will basically be moving any script files. Our first copy task will take EaselJS and any other third-party libraries and move them into the build/scripts folder. By passing expand and flatten, we'll be assured of ending up with a single scripts folder and no subfolders. Next, we'll move our index.html file out of app and into build as well. This means we'll end up having one build folder that has all of our game assets in it, including the HTML file, and everything will be run out of there. We won't be working in that folder, we'll be working in the app folder, but everything will get compiled into that build folder. Next, we have a simple connect task. This is what sets up a static local server for us to preview our work on. We'll just pass in the port of 9001 and set the base folder to build. This means that build will be the root of our 9001 port. Finally, our watch task. Now we'll tell watch that it should watch the files in app/lib and any subfolders and any JS files, and it should also watch any HTML files in app folder. If it sees changes in those files, it should call the build task. By passing in the options live reload equals true, we don't even have to refresh the browser to see any changes we've made. It does mean that we have to add a little script to our index file. We need to add a script to localhost 35729 live reload.js. And here under browser at the end of our body, we can include our actual application scripts. We have our EaselJS combined and our app bundle, which have both been exported into the scripts folder. So now if I run grunt, you'll see that it's browserified, it's copied scripts and HTML, and it's set up a server, and it's watching our directories. If we open a browser to localhost 9001, we'll see in the console, app started. To see if we've correctly loaded in create.js, we can type in create.js into this console, and we'll see it here. To demonstrate the live reload to you, you can see that I can change our main file, go back to our browser, and it's already updated and refreshed our change. You can see here the watch task detecting the change and re-rendering the application. Well, I hope that's been useful. Just remember, if you want to skip all of that setup, you can simply download the lesson 2 folder from the source files on Tuts Plus, and after installing Node, Grunt, and Bower, you'll just be able to run npm install, Bower install, and you'll be able to run the application as well. That's all for this lesson. Check back in for the next lesson, where we'll be taking our first look at the EaselJS framework. Ciao!